Hey, welcome back to part 2 of the Lethal Company Worker. In this video, let's create an animation very similar to this.
Hello. Oops. Oh my god, what did I eat?
Alright, so making this is so much fun. I hope you will also post some of the silly clips that you're doing, even if it's experimental. You know, we can just all learn from each other and give each other feedback and see how we can improve. But obviously, this is just for fun, right? Don't view this as like a professional, master course of proper animation. We're just literally jumping in and having fun, right? Just learning the basics. One of the things that I do want to point out is that in the video I added a few sound effects. Obviously, I'm not going to be covering that. That's just video editing. I just dragged a few sound effects right on top of the animation. Before we move forward, I would like to point out that someone in the first video actually brought up a really good point, asking why are we importing the rig directly into Maya instead of using a reference rig. Normally, if you are creating animations with multiple characters or multiple scenes, right? Maybe it's like a short and there's going to be a scene with this character being in different environments. For that, you definitely don't want to do what we're doing. We're just file import the actual rig. You do want to set up a reference. And the reason you want to do that is because at any time if the rig actually gets updated, you would only have to update it in one location or one file, and then all of your scenes that are referencing that rig will be automatically updated. So that's a really important point. And then also, obviously, if he's interacting with multiple different rigs or characters, you do not want to not reference it, right? So referencing is super important. So if you do want to level this up and create multiple scenes and have multiple characters, or maybe you have more than one person working on the rig, let's take a look at how do you reference something. Let me show you. If I go to File, New, let's start a new scene. And I'm going to go to File, and instead of Open, right, I'm going to go down here where it says Create a Reference. I'm going to click on that. And now, instead of just, again, saying File Open, I'm just going to click on the Game Ready file from Kyle and say Reference. So this is how it comes in. It doesn't look any different as when you will open the file, but it's actually being referenced in instead of being imported in. And you can test that by, let's go ahead and reference another one. I'm going to say create another reference. Let's grab another Game Ready and say reference that as well. And now you can see it looks like in the outliner I have two different characters, right? I have them together. So I'm going to select this base controller. I'm going to move it aside, and you can see that now there's two of them. And if I wanted to animate one of them, think about this powerful possibilities, right? I can import many of these and they can all, for example, fight each other. I can maybe hide one, just work on one of them. Maybe one is dancing while the other one is doing something else, and I can switch between them. So it's a really powerful way to manage your scene. And another important point is that you can't really mess up anything on the actual core game file. You're not going to be able to break the character because he's literally coming from a different source file, right? So you can move him around, but you can't really edit him. So that's a really important point. Another thing you want to keep in mind is if you go to File, you do have something called Reference Editor. And in here, every character that you import will have this little checkbox. So for example, I can uncheck one, and now he disappears, and maybe I want to uncheck this one and then check this one. So you can see that I have full control over which rig I'm working on, which one I'm animating. So referencing is really important and very powerful. So thank you for asking that question and bringing that up. All right, so let's move on and continue. Oh, and I also wanted to mention something really cool. So I just want to acknowledge that Kyle actually shared part 1 of the character setup video on his account, on his X account. And I strongly encourage anyone who wants to follow Kyle and see the new rigs that he's making, or any updates, industry updates for animation or rigging. If you're interested, definitely follow Kyle on X, and you can see all the cool things he's posting. And then also, while at it, I would love a follow as well. This is my account. It's just called same as my YouTube, Alan Bellotti 3D tutorials. So if you are using X, give us maybe both a follow, and let's stay in touch. All right. All right, so to do this, I'm gonna pull up the reference that we shot in video 1. And here's my QuickTime video. I'm hoping that you also took the time to maybe record yourself creating some kind of a silly animation. If not, it's perfectly fine. We can just follow what I made, and that should be good enough. All right, so how do we start our animation, right? In the previous video, keep in mind, we did download the character. We went over all the controllers, so we now understand how they work and what they mean. And we also set up the particle effects of the cloud, right? So definitely make sure to watch part 1 of this video. Otherwise, this one is not gonna make much sense to you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the animation. So in our reference, at least the one that I made, I have an idle, right? I'm just standing around. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look right, then I'm gonna look left, and then I'm gonna wave. All right, that's gonna be our first kind of a milestone for executing this. All right, so how do we do this? Well, what I would like to do first is I definitely wanna hide my particle system, and I don't really want it to interfere with me as I'm starting to animate my character, right? Later we can position the particles where they need to be and make sure they make sense and show up at the right moment, right after he waves, all of that. So for now, let's just simply hide it, right? In my outliner, I'm going to select the particles. I'm going to press H, and you can see that now it's grayed out, meaning it's hidden. So if I go back to 0 and press play, you shouldn't see any of the particles being activated. All right, so that's step 1. Step 2 is going to be creating a idle pose, right? And we definitely don't want him staying in this. This is not a T pose. I would say this is more like an A pose, because you can see he's sort of forming a letter A. So in the industry, this is just called an A pose, right? So let's put them in some kind of a default standing pose. So I'm going to select all of the controllers, and all I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to drag it, right? I'm going to drag a selection across all of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame 0 and press S on my keyboard. You can see a red line showed up, and that's going to be our first keyframe, right? And the other thing I want to mention is that in the first video, we did set our project to 24 frames per second, and we did give ourselves 200 frames in the timeline. All right, so make sure you have kind of a similar situation going on, right? All right, so once the keyframes have been set, let's go ahead and simply put him in a standing position. For that, I am gonna activate this button right here. That should be on by default actually, but if it's not, turn this on. It's called auto keyframe toggle, which means every time you make a change on the controller, it's going to automatically set a keyframe for us. This is gonna be useful moving forward. So let's decide on his default pose. But first, let's go ahead and lower his arms. To do this, I'm going to select this controller here, hold on the Shift key, select this blue one, and just make sure that in your channel box on the very top, you do have the IK/FK set to 1, right? That's going to be important because we do want forward kinematic settings for this in order for us to control the arms. Once you are sure that's the case, I'm going to select this guy here, hold on the Shift key, select this one, press E, and I'm just going to use this blue axis to just lower his arms down, right? And we can just do something like this. Let's go ahead and make sure we like the position of them. Maybe we can move it back a little bit just to make sure he's kind of chilling. And the other thing I would love to do is I'm going to take his wrist here, maybe just do something like this. And let's do the same thing with this one. As a standing pose, this still feels a little bit stiff to me. I would love to also bend some of his fingers. So I'm going to select, I'm looking at these finger controls right here. So I'm going to select all of these. I'm not going to grab the index finger, but I'm going to get everything else. And let's come back here and do the same thing. I'm going to hold on the Shift key and just select essentially these 6, right? So I have 6 on this side and 6 on that side. I'm gonna go back to rotation. I am gonna make sure that my axis orientation is in object mode. And what I would like to do, I would like to just bend these in on both sides. And that's gonna give me this illusion of, hey, I'm just totally relaxing. My hand is relaxed I'm not tense, I'm chilling, right? Let's also select the thumb, and we can decide if we want to bring these down as well. We can just maybe just a little bit, right? We could do that. And let's just see how this feels. I think that's pretty good. All right, so that's going to be kind of the default standing pose. I already like his feet. I like the fact that they're kind of spread out instead of pointing straight forward. So all of this is great. We can decide if we want to maybe also take his head and maybe just lower just a little bit, just so it feels, again, a little more relaxed. All right, I'm happy with this. All right, and just like in the reference, I am going to have the character look to the left and then to the right? So to do this, I'm going to select all the keys once again, and we so far set a key on 0, right? We can always adjust the timing as we wish, but for now, I'm gonna just guess and go to something like 40. And I'm gonna press S once again on my keyboard. Let's go to frame 80 and press S. So essentially this is gonna be him standing, looking at us or looking at the camera. This is gonna be him looking to the left. Then we probably want him to look to the right? We don't need him to come back to the center. He can just go straight from left to right. And then after that, let's go ahead and have him look at us. And maybe I'll just go to like 120. Again, we can adjust all of these. I'm gonna press S. Here he's gonna look at us and do a little wave, right? So that's my intention for all of this. If you wanna test the timing, if you're brand new, it's a really good idea to just, before you even create any motion or any keys whatsoever, just gonna press play. And if I watch my keyframes, I can just imagine him looking and doing the motions and get a really good sense of timing. If I thought, for example, that he needs to look to the left much quicker, right? What I can do at this point, while all of this is selected, it's very easy. You can just hold on the Shift key, click on this button here, and just move it around. So I just wanted to show you that. And maybe I want him to look, you know, to the left a little bit faster. And same thing with these. We can click on this, hold on the Shift key and click to select just that keyframe, or you can do a range. You can hold on the Shift key, slide it around, and then select a whole set of keys, and you can move them that way as well, right? So I just wanted to point that out. That's going to be important. Very cool. All right, so now apparently on frame 28, let's go ahead and have him, we'll grab his head and we'll have him look. I'm going to be still in object mode here. I'm going to look to the left. Maybe he's checking out and seeing if there's any issues on his left. All right, I don't want him to look too much to the left. He's not going to strain his neck, but he's just kind of casually looking. So that's going to be great. Another thing I can do is maybe take, let's go ahead and take some of these hips here and turn it just a little as well. And let's just see how this feels. If we scrub, we can see if we like this, right? All right, really cool. Next, let's go back to frame 28. And another thing I want to do, make sure you click on the thing to deselect everything. And let's make a new selection. I'm going to select these fingers here, hold on the Shift key, and select these fingers here. And this time I am including the index finger. I'm going to grab my rotation, and I'm just going to decide if I want to close these or maybe open them up. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to close them a little more, just something like this. And now what I would like to do, also I'm going to click here to deselect everything. I'm going to grab both of these arms, grab my rotation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly just move them. Let's go ahead and move them just a little, either in or out. I just want to create some kind of a sense of life. So the arms are moving, the fingers are going to be moving, his chest or his pelvis is pivoting, and his head is moving, right? So all of this is going to be very subtle, but I think helpful. And you know what? I feel like this could be maybe something like this. All right, you can decide if you like this. I think I do. I'm going to keep it very subtle. I'm not really going to add too much movement here. If we wanted to, we could grab the knee and let's just add just a little bit of a pivot here, just so it feels like the whole body is kind of being involved, right? So it's totally up to you. And that's going to be our first segment of animation. So congratulations if you are brand new. This is pretty cool. All right, so next I'm gonna go look left, and then I'm gonna look to the right. So I'm gonna go back to my third keyframe. It's going to be on 64. By the way, another cool, quick little trick. If you wanted to get to a specific keyframe, the red line, you could use these guys. So you can just click like on these, and that's gonna go from, it's gonna jump between these keyframes. So super helpful, and keep in mind that that's there as well. All right, very cool. So now he's gonna, let's grab his head, and he's just gonna simply look to his right. And this time, maybe we can also adjust the pivot a little bit. So instead of just pivoting left and right, I'm also gonna create a little bit of an angle. Maybe he's really curious to see, maybe there's a noise he heard and he's just checking it out, right? Same as before, let's go ahead and grab this waist and let's just do something like this. And this time, maybe he kind of leans forward a little bit as well. I think that would be kind of cool. And let's decide what we want to do with the fingers. I think I'm gonna leave them as is because we kind of curled them in here. And for the knees, I'm just gonna do the same thing as before. I'm just gonna move them just a little bit this way. And let's just check this out. So he's gonna go from looking to the left to looking to the right. And he's kind of leaning in, so he's really interested. If we wanted to review our animation, let's go to 0 and let's just press play. So I'm looking left, I'm looking right, and then I'm looking back. And I like all of this. Now, I don't want to keep this, I don't want to make this more advanced than it needs to be, because my goal here is to focus on new animators and people that are just kind of, you know, jumping in for the first time. If you take this as a professional, obviously there's going to be a few things that you need to learn, like the one of the things is going to be the graph editor. And we can always take a look at it later, but what that is if you select any of the animations that we just did, for example, just as simple as the head pivot, right? Right now you can see that I'm going between keyframe 0 and 28, and I don't really have much control over the speed at which he turns. I don't have the ability to maybe ease in and ease out, you know, create the turn a little more complex or have any kind of control over it. So for that, in Maya, or any animation package for that matter, you do have something called Graph Editor. If you go into the Graph Editor and select any of the controllers that we just animated, so let's just keep it super simple. Let's just select the head, right? Now, if you look at the Graph Editor and look at the timeline, as I drag this, you can see as he turns to his left, Maya automatically used what's called the outer tangent. So you can see what Maya did here. It automatically created these tangents for us where it's kind of easing out. It's going, he's kind of turning a little bit slow in the beginning, then it speeds up a little bit, and then it kind of easing in, right? So this curve is super important to understand. And just like in the timeline, you have these keyframes. So the graph editor is the same way. If you scroll your mouse, you can zoom in, press Alt and middle mouse to pan, and just like here, you have these keys that we can control, right? And we can change the speed or the behavior of these curves to help make our animation better and more complex. But once again, I don't really want to get into this in this video. Let's just keep it super simple. But it is here if you do need to tweak anything, right? So for now, I'm just going to close this up. And again, let's just go with the auto tangents for now, right? So again, I'm going to press play. He's looking left. He's looking right. He's looking at us. And just like the reference, the next thing he's going to do is wave. Let's go ahead and set that up, right? All right, next I'm going to select all the controllers once again. And at this point, I just want his, I want to start waving, right? So I'm going to go to 120. I'm going to press S. And from this point on, we don't really need to set keys for every single limb. All we really need is just the arm, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this arm here. And let's go ahead and start moving it into position. So maybe something like this at first, right? I'm going to grab this here and maybe do something like this. We can also get this into better position and let's just get our arm looking like he's waving. And I want to make sure it looks good from every direction. And I'm going to grab my wrist here, do something like this. All right, so it's going to be the first keyframe. And let's take a look and see. You can see that Maya will automatically tween the animation between the keyframes, right? We don't have to create keys for each every single movement. We're just doing kind of a key poses, right? Essentially, if you take an animation course, they will teach you to block the stuff out where it's not really even using the curves to animate. It's just gonna do frame by frame. So blocking means you only set the keys without seeing the motion. So you can go to frame 0, go 28, 64, 96, and then wave. That's blocking, right? That's going to be blocking. But we're not doing that because we, once again, just taking kind of a casual approach to this. And I totally don't mind having all the animations being applied in real time. All right, so he's going to raise his arm. Very cool. And I just want to make sure it's not distorted in any way. So something like this is good. And now he's going to do a friendly wave, right? So he raises up. Let's go ahead to, let's go to like frame 132. I'm just going to select this elbow controller and I'm going to press S, right? And let's go ahead and go to maybe 141, do another one. And let's do a couple more, right? We'll just do a few more. And this is going to allow us to go back and forth a couple times, right? So he raises his hand. Right here on 132, I'm gonna grab my rotation and I'm just gonna take this yellow one outside and just do something like this, like a basic wave. All right, so it's gonna go to the right and then it's gonna go back into place. When it goes into place, I wouldn't mind if it just went a little bit towards his body. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing with this one. And then he's going to go back here. So very simple, nothing complicated. Right now we have this really funny little wave. All right, really nice. One thing you're gonna notice is that he looks like he's frozen, right? We don't want that. Now, since we created this hand animation, let's go ahead and also add a little motion to his body. So to do this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all the keys. And remember on 120, right, here we set the keys just for the arm or for the elbow. But on 120, we did set keys for all of them, which means I can right click, I can say copy, I can go to 168 and let's do a paste, right? And now we have a segment from 120 to 168 where we can control his body. Again, all of these are just the elbow ones, right? This right here is going to be his body. So I can actually go to 168, grab something like his waist here, and maybe I can just do a little bit of a bend and maybe even a little bit of a rotation. And let's go ahead and grab his head and maybe move the head a little bit and take maybe this arm and do something like this. Take this, just move a few of these limbs around so he doesn't look like he's frozen in time, right? So now you're gonna see as he's waving, there's gonna be a little bit of a motion too, which is really cool and very easy to do, right? All right, let's review our animation. He's gonna look to his left, he's gonna look to the right, look back to the camera, raise his hand, do a little wave, and now maybe we want him to lower his arm, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and select all the keys, and I'm gonna go back to 0, copy that, go to 200, and let's do a paste. And that should bring all the arms down and kind of reset his body, right? And now let's go ahead to 0 and review this. All right, so everything looks really good, except right here when he brings his arm up, once again, he looks super stiff, and this is not very natural, right? If you're standing still and you bring your arm up, there's gonna be some movement in your body as well. So let's take a look and see how can we make this better. From 96 to 200, what I would like to do is I wanna create a few more adjustments. So on 120, let's go ahead and select his waist here, and let's just add a little bit of a tilt. So as the arm comes up, he also kind of leans back a little bit. I think that's really, really cool and very subtle and very simple. And I actually wouldn't mind if this moved a little bit as well, just so there's just some kind of excitement. All right, and let's go ahead and review our animation. All right, so this is looking good. Keep in mind, the more time you spend on this, obviously the better it's gonna get. But even this right here, I'm pretty happy with. If I thought that maybe he moves a little bit slow, how can I speed this up? So one way I can speed this up is by changing the frames per second, obviously. Let's say I don't want to do that. What if I want to change the position of these keys or adjust my timing without changing the frames per second? How do I do that? So what I could do is, let's extend our timeline, because he's going to be doing a lot more, right? He's going to get poisoned and then he's going to fall. So I'm going to switch it to 400. I'm just kind of doing it segment by segment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on the shift key, select all of these here, all the keys that we created so far. I'm going to grab this lost little arrow. I'm just going to start shoving it to the left. And essentially I'm condensing the keys that I just made to be a lot faster. So our animation is going to be placed a lot faster. I just went from 200 to somewhere about 125. Now check this out. If I go to frame 0 and still same frames per second, if I play it, he should be moving a lot faster. Check this out. So maybe that's a little bit more natural, and that's how you can adjust the speed of your animations even after you create them with multiple keys, right? So that's really important. Fun. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the reference and see what happens next. All right, so in my reference, I'm gonna look left. I already did that. I'm gonna look right. Then we did the wave. We finished all of that. The next thing that we're gonna work on is this right here. The gas starts to come up from the ground, and we'll add that obviously to our animation as well. So he's kind of, what I'm doing is just random. I'm not really sure if this is the way you would act if you got poisoned. I'm gonna not do this because I like this right here at the end. Remember right here, we did this again when he falls. So I don't wanna do this twice. So I'm actually gonna find my own reference and adjust this. But I do like the idea of this right here, where he kind of just loses his mind, maybe his brain just disconnected. I like the fact that he's holding, I like the arms down, and I also like this here where he's holding the helmet and he's just not sure what happened. So that's cool. And then I also like this. I like the little shaking. Maybe he's just really realizing he's in trouble, and that's pretty much lights out right here. So that's cool. I like that. And then this is going to be our third part. So let's not do this yet. All right, very cool. So now I have kind of a nice understanding. So you see how important it is to create a reference that you can, look and see what does an actual human being would do versus not having one. If you're looking just at the characters and trying to, guess what the motions are or the animation should be, that's not going to be nearly as nice or believable as if you have an actual life reference. So maybe you don't want to shoot yourself. You can still grab a reference from a movie or a film that you like, or an animated film or whatever, right? But you do need some kind of reference if you want to create something believable. All right, very cool. All right, let's just move forward. So he does this little wave, then he puts his hand down. I'm going to select all this so I can see where my keys are, and as I told you before, I can jump right here. So 125 so far is my last one. And actually, to help us out, maybe it would be helpful if we let's go and turn on our fluid so we can see what's going on here. So the fluid right now starts at frame 0, right? So if we press play, we have the Fume activated right away on frame 0. We don't want that, right? We want them to be we want the frame activated after he waves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the Fume in the outliner, hold down the shift key, select all of these keys, and I'm going to grab this middle one and just start dragging it out, right? And essentially I want to start the Fume somewhere on 130, okay? So that's going to be the beginning. So in the beginning, when he's doing the looking around and waving, there's no fumes. Right here, the fumes come up or appear, and now he can go into his, his poison mode, right? So let's use this to our advantage. Now, one thing that I would like to do, it would be really cool if maybe the fumes came from the bottom instead of just appearing by his head for some reason. So how can we control that? So if I select this, I can see that the fume or the fluid or the smoke has all these different keys. Well, I don't really want to mess with these keys. I only want to mess with the translate value. So I'm going to select the translate value for the fluid. And now you can see I have a couple different keys here. And one of them is right here when it's in full bloom. I'm going to right click on this and say key selected, which is great. And then I'm going to go to the beginning where it kind of doesn't start yet. And let's go ahead and select the key here too. And let's bring this down a lot lower. Maybe let's do like, I don't know, let's do 50. So essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm going to start the fume on the, like down here somewhere, and then it comes up. Let's see if that's the case. So you can see right here, it starts to move up, and you can see the translate Y values are moving, right, for the fume. And then all this other animation kind of gets activated. So it looks like it's coming from the bottom, and maybe let's lower this to 0 actually, right? Let's just see if that feels even better. So it starts right here and then it just moves up. And I think that's pretty much perfect, right? So we can control that. Now keep in mind, the only reason I'm focusing on this so much is because I want to differentiate the difference between selecting this and seeing all of these keys. That's one thing, that's one timeline. But then also if you click on the translate, you see a different set of keys, right? This is going to be the movement of the flame. And that is important. And then we can move it up, right here, he starts to move up. So I like all of this. I think the timing is good. Now let's go ahead and move on to our animation, right? So for the animation, I don't really want to select this anymore. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this fume and put it on its own layer. I'm going to go into channel box, and in the display section, I'm going to click on this little button right here, create a new layer and assign selected object. I'm going to click on that, and let's double click on this, and let's say, let's call it fumes. Say save. And one thing I want to make sure is that I'm going to put these fumes in, I don't need it in template mode. Let's put it into a reference mode. Reference mode just means it's locked up. We can't use it. We can't select it. But we could still see it. So essentially, if I play the animation, I could still see it being activated. But now I can no longer select it. I can still select it in the outliner, but I don't want to do that. But I can't select it in the accidentally select it in the viewport, which is great, right? Which is going to allow me to select all of my controllers without being worried that this is by accident going to get selected, right? So that's important. So do that. And the other thing you want to do is go to File and do a increment save. So that's something I do a lot. If you incrementally save, then you can have different versions of your file with numbers added to it, and then there's a great way to, if something gets messed up, to go back and start over from a specific point. So if you get to a point that you like, do an incremental save. Just a really good practice. All right, amazing. Let's go ahead and start adding the his distressed animation. All right, so he stopped waving, and then right here we have a little bit of a pause, and then the smoke comes up from the bottom, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press S to set keys on this. And what I would like to do is I would like him to start looking at, maybe he notices the fact that the smoke is coming from the bottom. So he's going to look down. And the other thing I can do is I can select his hips, maybe do something like this, just a little bit. And also maybe just move him down just a little bit. And the arms, as he notices something really weird, maybe he gets a little, confused. So he's kind of looking down and does something like this with his hands. Maybe he twists his hands a little bit. So whatever you like to do is fine. Maybe he even does something like this, right? He's kind of on guard, right? He's like, what's happening? I don't understand. And now we have this situation here, right? He's looking down, and the smoke is not aligning with him down precisely. I actually need to move this. So I'm going to grab these, hold on the shift key, select this, and let me just actually move this a little bit closer. All right, so this is kind of funny. Now, if you use your imagination, you can only imagine where could this toxic fume could possibly come from. And that I didn't really plan for that, but I actually think that's hilarious, right? So maybe he actually ate something very toxic the day before, and now he's kind of witnessing the aftermath of that. That's really cool. All right, so anyway, so the guests or the fume come up, and right here he could start doing some kind of a unpleasant, you know, something that happens to his body as an aftermath. So maybe he does this, right? Now you can see the foot actually lifted as I pulled him back. So let me pull this back down. So now I have something like this. And very quickly, I don't want it to be long. So I'm gonna go to this keyframe and let's go ahead and do something like this way, right? And just create a little bit of a confusion. So we can't really see his face, so it doesn't need to be a lot, but we are watching his body, so that would be really cool if we can see that the guy is somehow struggling, right? I'm just kind of moving him back and forth on his waist, and it would be maybe even funny if we could see his face a little bit. All right, very cool. So right here, I think he should also, let's go ahead and move him back forward. And I think at this point right here, he could start grabbing his head, right? Now, the tricky part about this is, check this out. If I select the arms and I start to move them, right? You can see that I'm gonna start creating keyframes on frame 220. Now, that's a problem because you don't want to set new keys on 220 where his arms are going to his helmet without setting a prior key that's gonna hold this pose. I know it's a little bit confusing, but just try to follow me along. So any motion or any change in pose that I'll do right now on frame 220 is going to also be applied to this range right here, the entire range of frames, because I don't have any keys holding this pose, right? Which means, let me just break it and show you. So if I take this, for example, and I'll hold down the shift key, select both of these arms. And let's just say, for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, but let's say I want to have both of these arms going up, and then he's gonna, you know, we're gonna make a pose where he's holding the helmet. Well, because I just raised his hands up, or his arms, without setting a key prior to holding the pose, now these arms right here are gonna be part of this entire segment. Check this out. If I go back, see, the hands are kind of moving up and down, which actually looks kind of cool. That was by accident, but honestly, I kind of like that. But that's the thing about animation, is that if you set keys for something, you need to have a starting origin to hold the pose before you move it. So I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Let me actually undo that. And what I need to do is check this out. Now his right here, the smoke dissipates, then he kind of moves forward a little bit, right? We made that change for our, you know, our waist, right? On frame 220. Now, if I wanted to bring his arms to the helmet, what I need to do is I need to set a key for all the controllers that I'm planning on animating. Let's select all the controllers. And as he moves forward, I'm going to press S to set keys on all the every single controller, right? And that's going to help us kind of anchor in our origin pose before we move the arms. And on 220 now, let's do this. Let's move forward just a little bit, and right here maybe he can start grabbing his, you know, let's raise his arms up, and maybe he grabs his mask. Now, as he grabs the mask, he definitely needs to move his body just a little more. Maybe he straightens back out a little more, and maybe he just looks down. Let's also tilt his head down a little more. And now we have something like this. So we have a little bit of a movement. And the other thing I would like to do, honestly, I wouldn't mind to also add just a little bit of a bend in his knees as well. So just like this, very, very subtle. So essentially going from frame 220 to 230, you just have this really subtle movement. And now on 230, let's go ahead and move some of these joints as well, right? I'm gonna select all of them again, press S to set keys. And I'm doing that because it's gonna be just easier to manage keys to be before and after. So make sure we don't break our pose, right? So what I'm going to do now is go to frame 230. I'm just going to move this a little bit forward, just like this. And let's go ahead and take this one and start moving it, you know, towards his helmet just a little bit. So there's going to be like in between, right? So we got something like this. He's looking forward, then he's going back. He's going towards his thing. This is going to be in between. And then right here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select all the keys, press S, and let's do the same thing. I'm going to take this and adjust his position of the waist. Maybe like just turn it a little more. He's definitely getting a little bit disheveled and confused, right? Maybe do this, and it doesn't need to be precise, right? We're just having fun. Maybe move it to the side a little more, just so we add a little life to this, right? And also maybe I kind of feel like his hips shouldn't be tilted so much. So now I have something like this. Essentially, all I'm doing is I'm just adding a little bit of a core motion as he moves his arms. So it doesn't feel like the arms are moving and everything else is frozen. That's what I'm doing here. So regardless of what you decide, that's fine. And once you are happy with the core motion, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these wrists, and let's go ahead and just kind of tilt them towards the helmet a little more, right? And now I can also take both of these shoulder controllers and kind of just move them, see if I can do them at the same time, but essentially just kind of move them closer. And maybe I need to just adjust this one at a time. So I want him to almost like grabbing his helmet in disbelief, right? So I can even adjust maybe this right here, grab this here and just adjust this. So kind of he's placing his hands on the helmet. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm wearing the broken one. And that is the point of this, right? All right, now I have something like this. Now let's check this out. As the arms are moving, his core is moving and his head is moving because we adjusted that first. So now I have this really cool animation, right? And that is pretty awesome. And at this point, let's go ahead and just add a little bit of a pause. I'm gonna select all of these keys. Once he puts this up, I'm gonna add another key right here, maybe on 260. And again, I'm just gonna add a little bit of a motion, like a little, you know, I'm alive, I'm moving. Maybe move this head a little more. There's something, right? And then maybe after this, he can start doing the shake. Now with the shake, I like this right here, but maybe a little more aggressive. So to do that, I'm gonna copy this frame, right? Let's select this and copy all of these. And then right here, I'm gonna go to like, I don't know, let's go to like 271, do a paste. And essentially that's going to lower his hands back down. And now let's do a violent shake, right? That's going to be really easy. To do the violent shake, all we need to do is just have the keyframes to be really close to each other. And let's just kind of move this back and forth. So I'm going to do it this way and press S, move this way. And just randomly kind of just create like this nonsense of he just got poisoned and he's about to collapse, right? So let's go ahead and do a few more. And I'm only just moving his waist, really. I think if we play this back, it's going to be, should be really funny because the keyframes are so close to each other. It's a total nonsense. And I'm hoping that's going to work. All right. And let's say after this, I think he can just collapse, right? So let's take a look and see if we like what we have so far. I'm going to go back to frame 0 and let me just play the entire animation. All right, so that's cool. If I wanted to, I can hold on the shift key and I can also adjust the timing. As I taught you guys, you know, we can control the distance between these. If we press play, let's take a look. So we definitely have some kind of a strange neurotic shake, and after this I think he should just collapse, and that's going to be kind of the end of our animation, right? All right, so after he does his little shake, let's just create the next pose, which is going to be him falling down, right? So let's check this out. I can go just a little bit forward, and let's set another key. All right, let's set another key here. I'm going to press this button here to go to the previous keyframe, which is going to be, let's see, it's going to be 305. And I really need to make sure that all the keys are set for this, because I want his feet to stay planted at this point in time. So press S to make sure that's the case. And now if we go to the next one, which in my case it's 313, right? And here I can start creating a pose of him falling down, kind of an in-between pose. So very simple. I'm just going to kind of start tilting him down. Maybe his, his waist turns. And maybe it'll be funny if his arm kind of came up, one of the arms came up, and he's, I don't know, maybe he does something like this. Maybe he can also raise his leg up. We haven't done that yet. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's grab this knee, turn the knee, and maybe tilt his foot. We can decide if the foot should be like this or more like this. It's up to you. I kind of like this, like he's losing his balance, right? So that's a funny pose to me. I think that works. Obviously, the more time you spend, the better it's gonna look. Maybe you do something like this. All right, so he's gonna go from shaking to then to this. And then after that, let's go ahead and drop him down, right? I'm just gonna take this here and literally just start moving him down, right? Maybe we'll do another one more in between. So let me fix his foot. That doesn't look right. Let me grab this foot here. I'm going to turn it, and what I need to do is just move it forward a little more, just create a little bit of a bend there. All right, I'm going to continue kind of keeping him on this foot. I don't mind him being in the same spot. This is kind of like his point of origin, right, where he's just kind of losing his balance. Another thing I can do is, let's go ahead and maybe raise this up. I can rotate this. There's no rules. I'm just having fun, right? Just trying to decide what the character would do mid-flight. And maybe this could just start going back a little more. Like he's lost his balance, right? Let's check this out. So again, he's shaking, then he's going to this, and then to that. And then the last one, I think, is going to be him just on the ground, right? So I'm going to do that. So let me rotate his waist, and I'm going to go ahead and drop him down on the floor. Maybe bring this foot in a little more. All right, you get the idea. So this is him kind of falling down, right? And let's check this out. If I press play, I have something like this. Now, obviously, he's falling very slowly, and that's not something I want. I want him to drop much faster. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the keys on this. Let's go to the graph editor, and let's change this, all the keys that are being selected. Let's get rid of the auto tangents. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, let me select actually the last three sets of keys that we did. And I'm going to change it to linear instead, okay? And by changing it to linear, it's no longer going to have easing in and easing out. So now if I go to my shaking sequence, you will see that he'll fall much faster, right? Because now he doesn't really have easing in and easing out. And I definitely still want to take this key here and just move it much closer in and make this a little more, a little faster. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Let's press play. And that's pretty much it. At this point, it's just about massaging it, making it better, and tweaking it the way you like it. I don't want to spend time doing that. I just want to kind of show you the basics. And let's just review our animation and see what we got. And then, if you wanted to hide the controllers, you can go to Show, go to Viewport, and we can turn off something called NURBS Curves. And that's just going to show us the character by himself. So let's check out our animation. There's one more final thing that I want to mention. As you play your animation, right, if you play it in the viewport, there's going to be a little bit somewhat of a delay depending on the speed of your computer. There's a couple things you could do. You could turn on the cached playback toggle, which I don't normally use, but if you turn this on, sometimes that will help you with the frame rate. The other thing that's really important, if you want to share your video, for example, on the Discord or on social media or something, two ways to do it, right? You can set up lighting and do a, like a rendering, PNG rendering, and then take the PNG sequence, drop it into something like Premiere, and you have a movie. You can create a PNG sequence and just use QuickTime to turn it into a movie with the sequences. That's one way of doing it. Or what I keep doing, which is really helpful, if you turn off your curves, right? You don't see those. You could just turn on, for example, the ambient occlusion to make the, 3D model look a little bit nicer. And then under animation, if you go to playback, you can do something called playBlast. If you click on options in here, you can change the scale of this if you want a larger video or smaller video. Mine is set to 50% at this point. And the encoding, I would just leave it on H264. And if you just do a playBlast, essentially what that's going to do, it's not really rendering the animation. It's not like a final render or anything, but playBlast is a tool that allows you to preview your animation in real time without delays. So playBlast is a great tool that you must use as an animator, and it's going to give you like a, I don't want to say a cheap version, but like a viewport version of the animation. It's not really rendered, but it's also doesn't have any delays. So that would be something that you could share or something that you could test before you render something. You don't want to render something for 2 hours and then find out that, oh my God, I don't like the timing of my animation, right? So playBlast is a great tool. You could see there's no delay. It's perfect. And that is pretty much super important, right? And so use that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is if you want to create animation for your camera, right? You can, of course, add a camera, right? I can go to, I don't need to go to modeling, but I can go to create cameras and drop a camera and then just animate a camera. And the way you animate cameras is exactly the same way as you do anything else. If I don't even drop the camera, if I use the perspective camera, I can just click on the perspective in the outliner, and you can see you can set keys for the camera, right? So no matter what I do, because this toggle is on, as I move my camera, it's going to be animated. So let's say I want to, have them zoomed out at first, and then on this frame, let's say I want to zoom in, right? And by just zooming in automatically, you can see the keys are set. So now my camera is being animated, and I can go, in the back of the character, and now it's moving around, right? So all of that is important to understand, and you can use that to your advantage. I'm gonna go back to 0. I actually don't really want animated camera, but I just wanted to show you that. So keep that in mind. All right, so I might spend a little more time tweaking this and making it a little bit better, but that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed these videos and created something funny. Please share your animation on the Discord channel. I'll provide a link below this video. All right, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys in our next one.